LeBron James has spent years waiting for another true star beside him, and now it looks like he's finally getting one. LaMelo Ball could be joining the Lakers, and the entire NBA is buzzing. But what happened behind the scenes is what has everyone talking. Let me catch you up. The NBA draft was still warm when the bomb dropped. Shams Charania, ESPN's most plugged-in reporter, put out the word that the Charlotte Hornets were taking calls on LaMelo Ball, and that Charlotte had multiple teams already interested. Not one team, multiple. That single piece of information, just a few words on a screen, was enough to set the entire NBA world on fire. Because LaMelo Ball isn't just any trade piece. He's a 24-year-old all-star point guard. He's one of the most electrifying players in the league. He's the kind of player franchises are supposed to build around, not trade away. And yet, there he was, on the mark, mid-off-season, before the ink on the 2026 NBA draft results was even dry. The question that immediately ran through every fan base in the league was the same one. Could we get him? Lakers fans had an answer ready before the question was even finished. And honestly, the conversation about LaMelo Ball in Los Angeles had been going on for a lot longer than just this one offseason. Let's establish something right away. Ball had just put up 20.1 points, 7.1 assists, and 4.8 rebounds per game. And the 72 games he played was the most of his career so far. 6 seasons in, and he was only just now hitting the health number that most NBA stars hit routinely. That combination of elite production and improved availability made him the most dangerous name on the trade market. Not the most available, the most dangerous. Behind strong play from Ball, Brandon Miller, and rookie sensation Con Newpel, the Hornets finished 44-38, their best record in 10 years. But it wasn't quite enough to make the playoffs, as they lost in the play-in tournament. That's the part that stings. Everything was pointing up. The record was better. The young core was clicking. Ball was healthy. And somehow, the Charlotte Hornets still decided they were done with him. That's the thing that caught everyone off guard. Charania noted that the Hornets didn't actively shop Ball. They received multiple offers, and this is the route they went. Nobody put a for sale sign in the window. Teams came calling, the Hornets listened, and at some point someone made an offer that made Charlotte say yes. The offseason hadn't even really started. LaMelo Ball, who had just played his most productive and healthiest season, was being moved. The whole league leaned in. NBA insiders Mark Stein and Jake Fisher reported that the Minnesota Timberwolves and Toronto Raptors were the two biggest suitors to start the sweepstakes, while the Milwaukee Bucks also had registered interest. 3 different franchises, 3 different pitch decks, 3 different visions for what LaMelo Ball could become in their system. The Timberwolves wanted him as Anthony Edwards' co-star. The Raptors were pitching him a rebuild with upside. The Bucks were dangling the chance to win now. And then there were the Lakers. Los Angeles wasn't publicly named in the opening wave of reporting, but you don't have to say a team's name to know they're somewhere in that conversation. The Lakers and LeBron James have been linked to every single marquee trade rumor. Since LeBron arrived in Hollywood, it's almost its own genre of NBA internet at this point. But this time, it felt different because the Lakers actually had a real argument for why they needed LaMelo Ball specifically. James is primarily the team's leading playmaker, and adding Ball could allow the 40-year-old star to share the scoring load and facilitate the offense. That's the pitch right there. LeBron has Luka Doncic now. That's a generational talent by his side. But neither LeBron nor Luka is a traditional point guard built to play off the ball, without the rock in their hands. Ball, with his feel, his no-look passes, his ability to make plays out of nothing, fills a role that neither of them can fill for each other. The fit was too obvious to ignore. So when trade proposals started flying around the internet, the Lakers were right in the middle of them. One of the proposals circling around sends Charlotte Hornets point guard LaMelo Ball to the Lakers. In return for Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Max Christie, a 2029 first-round pick, unprotected, a 2031 first-round pick, unprotected, a 2025 second-round pick, and a 2025 second-round pick via the Los Angeles Clippers. That's a serious package. Reeves is one of the more valuable rotation players in the entire Western Conference, and the Lakers were being asked to send him away. Was it realistic? That's where it gets complicated. Losing players like Reeves and Hachimura could be tough, as the Lakers have been committed to their development as key players on the roster. Reeves in particular is an elite shot creator who can score efficiently, with and without LeBron on the floor, averaging over 28 points per game this season, along with 6.6 assists and 5.7 rebounds. You don't just give that away, but what you're getting back is a 24-year-old who does things with a basketball. that barely anyone on Earth can replicate. The flashy playmaker could fit right into LA and be just the star this team needed to play alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Wait, Anthony Davis. That's a name that doesn't apply to the current Lakers roster anymore. Davis was traded away in the move that brought Luka Doncic to Los Angeles. So the calculations have shifted, but the underlying logic, LaMelo Ball beside LeBron, providing the kind of star-level backcourt firepower the Lakers have needed for years, that part of the conversation didn't change. If anything, it got louder. Because here's what people sometimes forget. For all the moves Los Angeles has made over the years, for all the players who have come through that franchise alongside LeBron, the Lakers haven't had a consistent third star since the 2020 championship run. Anthony Davis already proved he can be the 1A or 1B on a championship team next to LeBron. Their games complemented each other, with Davis playing at DPOY levels and providing efficient scoring, allowing LeBron to dictate the offense. That partnership worked, and then it ended, and the Lakers have been searching for the next piece ever since. Luka is the next piece, but even with Luka, there's a gap. LeBron can still be a great no-2, but this new dynamic duo needs a center and a lot of wing defense to thrive. Danny Green, someone who won a championship playing next to LeBron, said that out loud on a podcast. He knows what it takes to make that machine work, and when a guy with 3 rings tells you the team is still missing something, you listen. Several franchises have already made key moves to bolster their rosters for the upcoming season, but the Los Angeles Lakers remain notably quiet on the transaction front. That silence made the LaMelo speculation even louder. The rest of the league was making noise, and the Lakers were sitting still. So every fan with a Twitter account and a trade machine filled that void with their own version of the deal that would change everything. LaMelo to the Lakers became the trade everyone was building in their head, whether it was realistic or not. And to understand why Lakers fans wanted it so badly, you have to understand who LaMelo Ball actually is. Not just the numbers, not just the highlights, the full story of where he came from and how he got here. Because it's unlike any path to the NBA that has come before it. LaMelo LaFrance Ball was born August 22, 2001, and was selected by the Hornets with the 3rd overall pick of the 2020 NBA Draft. He came in as one of the most hyped prospects in years, a player with a rare combination of court vision, scoring touch, and an almost instinctual feel for the game that you can't teach. He could thread a pass through 3 defenders before any of them knew the ball was gone. He could pull up from 30 feet with a hand in his face and drain it with his head tilted back. Ball was voted the NBA Rookie of the Year in 2021 and named an NBA All-Star the following season in 2022. The talent was never the question. It was never the question. The question was always availability, whether LaMelo could stay on the floor long enough to be the player everyone knew he could be. And for years, the answer was frustratingly inconsistent. Ball's 6 seasons with the Hornets never culminated in a playoff appearance, with injuries, including 141 missed games over the previous 3 seasons, playing a significant role. 141 missed games. That's almost 2 full seasons of absence crammed into a 3-year stretch. Every time it looked like the pieces were falling into place in Charlotte, something would happen. An ankle, a wrist, a foot. The health issues piled up season after season, and the Hornets kept spinning their wheels. Though he played 72 games last season, he only suited up for 105 combined in the 3 seasons prior. Let that number land in 3 years. He played the equivalent of 1 full season and change. Teams around the league had understandably become cautious about betting their future on someone with that medical history. But when LaMelo was healthy and playing, the argument was impossible to ignore. Because you're watching someone who makes the game look effortless in a way that reminds you of maybe 4 or 5 players in the entire history of the sport. In an October 2025 game against the Washington Wizards, Ball recorded a triple-double with 38 points, 13 rebounds, and 13 assists. His first since November 2023. That's what a healthy LaMelo Ball looks like. 38 points, 13 boards, 13 assists. That's not just good. That's a statement. That's a player announcing that the injury years are behind him and that the best version of himself has finally shown up to stay. But even beyond the basketball, there's something about the LaMelo Ball story that captures people's attention in a way that goes beyond just the on-court stuff. He's grown up in public, from the Facebook reality show his family did when he was a teenager to his unconventional pre-draft path through Lithuania and Australia, to his father's constant media presence, LaMelo Ball has never had a quiet moment in his life. Before his junior season, a coaching dispute prompted him to leave Chino Hills and sign with a Lithuanian professional team. In 2018, he played in the Junior Basketball Association, a league created by his father, before returning to high school as a senior with Spire Academy in Geneva, Ohio. Most NBA players spend their pre-draft years in a college gym. LaMelo spent his in Europe in a dad league and bouncing between high schools. Nobody else in the 2020 draft class had a path that even came close to resembling his. Ball was a 5-star recruit who committed to UCLA, but chose to forego college basketball amid eligibility concerns and play in Australia for the Illawarra Hawks. He went to Australia at 17 and came back as a projected top 3 pick. The journey itself told you everything you needed to know about him: unconventional, fearless, and willing to bet on himself even when the conventional wisdom said the risk wasn't worth it. Those same qualities showed up every single time he touched a basketball in the NBA, and now, with the whole league watching, the biggest bet of his career was about to be placed by someone else on his behalf. Ball was the No. 3 overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft and had 3 years remaining on a 5-year, $203.9 million designated rookie contract, a franchise record for the Hornets. That's the contract hanging over this whole situation. $203 million. 3 years still left on it. Whatever team acquired LaMelo Ball wasn't just getting a player. They were taking on a financial commitment that tells you exactly what Charlotte thought of him when they signed that deal. And now they were walking away from it anyway. For some reason, perhaps one of the ones we can easily discern, perhaps not, the Hornets decided that they did not want to move forward with LaMelo Ball as their franchise player. CBS Sports put it plainly. The Hornets made a decision that nobody saw coming, and the NBA world immediately started trying to figure out why. Was it the injuries, the fines, the off-court incidents? The direction the franchise wanted to go with their young core? The answer probably involves all of those things at once. But none of that mattered to the teams lining up to acquire him. What mattered was that LaMelo Ball, healthy, 24 years old, with 3 years of guaranteed max money left on his deal, and playing the best basketball of his life, was available. And the Lakers, along with everyone else who pays attention to this league, wanted to know if Los Angeles was going to make a move. The summer was officially on. Ball will earn a base salary of $40,770,520 in 2026-27, while carrying a matching cap hit. He signed a 5-year, $203,852,600 contract with the Charlotte Hornets, including the full amount guaranteed and an average annual salary just north of $40 million. Acquiring that contract isn't nothing. Any team that takes on those numbers is making a real financial commitment. And for the Lakers, a franchise that has historically struggled with cap flexibility after making big moves, that consideration loomed large over every conversation. Los Angeles traded its first-round selections in every NBA draft between 2019 and 2022, gave up on 2023 selection Jalen Hood-Schifino within 2 seasons, and traded their first-round picks in 2025 and 2027. The Lakers have a long history of spending future assets to chase the present. That pattern left them asset poor in the exact moments when asset richness would have mattered most. And now here they were again, watching a generational trade piece become available, asking themselves whether they had enough left in the cupboard to compete with the teams who wanted him most. The answer to that question would shape the entire offseason. And while the Lakers were running the numbers, the rest of the league was already making moves. Dorian Finney-Smith declined his $15.4 million player option, entering free agency, leaving the Lakers without one of their best two-way role players just as the most important summer in years was beginning. His departure left the Lakers without one of their most dependable two-way players. While he was not seen as a star, Finney-Smith had become essential to J.J. Redick's system on both ends of the floor. One more hole in a roster that was already trying to figure out its identity. The Lakers did post a 50-32 record and record the number 3 seed in the Western Conference this season, but they fell short of a deep playoff run, losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 quick contests. 50 wins, 3rd seed, and then out in 5. That's not good enough. Not for this team, not for LeBron, not for a franchise that measures success in championships. The first-round exit lit a fire under the front office, and the LaMelo Ball conversation became the most important one happening anywhere in the league. The Lakers needed to act. The question was whether they could act fast enough and whether the price would be one they were willing to pay. But while LA sat and calculated, there were teams already at the table. And what happened next is where this story gets genuinely wild. To understand why the LaMelo Ball conversation hit the way it did for Lakers fans specifically, you have to go back further than just this summer. You have to understand the full arc of LeBron James in Los Angeles. Because the hunger for a star co-pilot isn't new. It's been the subplot of every single one of his Lakers seasons since he arrived in 2018. LeBron Raymond James is an American professional basketball player for the Los Angeles Lakers of the National Basketball Association. He is the NBA's all-time leading scorer and has won 4 NBA championships from 10 NBA Finals appearances, including 8 consecutive appearances between 2011 and 2018. 4 championships, 10 finals. The resume is unmatched, but each one of those titles had something in common: a co-star, a running mate, a player who could carry the load when defenders collapsed on LeBron, who could win a game by himself on those nights when LeBron needed someone else to take over. In Cleveland, it was Kyrie Irving. In Miami, it was Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Back in Cleveland for the second run, it was Kyrie again. Then in 2020, in that weird Orlando bubble, it was Anthony Davis, who might be the single most dominant playoff big man of his generation when he's right. After that 2020-21 run, Davis was clearly the best Laker, until he was flipped for Doncic, who instantly took the mantle. Now it's Luka, but even with Luka, the question never goes away. The 2020 championship was the last time this franchise won anything, and it's been a rolling series of almost moments since then. There was the Russell Westbrook experiment, the one that everyone could see wasn't working before it even started. There was the Anthony Davis injury year. There was the first round exit, then another one. Each season the hopes were there. Each season something gave way. On January 3, 2025, James put up 30 points and 8 assists in a win over the Hawks, surpassing Michael Jordan for the most 30-point regular season games in NBA history. He's still making history. He's still doing things that have never been done before, at an age when most players have been retired for 5 years. But history-making individual performances don't automatically translate into team success. LeBron knows that better than anybody. He's lived it. On February 6, James recorded a season-high 42 points in a win over the Warriors, making James the oldest player to score 40 or more points in a game. 42 points, the oldest man to ever do it. And when reporters asked him about it after the game, he gave the kind of answer you'd expect from someone who still believes, genuinely believes that the best is ahead of him, not behind, ahead. That mindset is what keeps him in this conversation. And it's what made the LaMelo Ball question feel so urgent. Because LeBron at 41 isn't the same as LeBron at 31. Everybody knows that. He can still erupt for 42. He can still make the right pass in the fourth quarter when the game is on the line. But the recovery time is different. The minutes load has to be managed differently. The nights when he needs help to shoulder the burden are more frequent than they used to be. And that reality means the teammate beside him matters more now than it ever has. James is primarily the team's leading playmaker, and adding Ball could allow the 40-year-old star to share the scoring load and facilitate the offense. That's not just fan fiction, that's a genuine basketball argument. Luka and LeBron together create defensive attention that opens the floor, but neither of them is a spot-up shooter by nature. Neither of them is designed to play without the ball in hand. Adding a third option who can create independently, who can be handed the keys when the two stars need a rest, would change everything about how opposing defenses could game plan against the Lakers. And LaMelo Ball, specifically, is one of the best off-ball playmakers in the game. You don't need him to have the ball to benefit from him on the court. His basketball IQ means he reads the game faster than defenders can adjust. He finds open corners before anyone has moved. He puts the ball somewhere that nobody expected it to go, and somehow it arrives in a shooter's hands at the perfect moment. But there's also the cultural dimension to this. LeBron and LaMelo aren't just two random basketball players. They exist in the same ecosystem. Both are global brands. Both have deep connections to the entertainment and business worlds beyond the game. Both are from Southern California. And Los Angeles, as a basketball city, has always been about more than just the wins. Danny Green, who played alongside LeBron during the 2020 championship run, gave one of the most honest assessments of what it's like to be LeBron's teammate. He talked about LeBron's basketball memory, the way he processes every player's tendencies, every zone of the court, every matchup. He knows everybody, what they can do, where their best spots are. He wants you where you're at, where you're best at, and he's gonna find you there. He knows they're gonna double him, and if they don't, he's going to kill. He made the game very easy. That's what LaMelo would be walking into. A Hall of Famer who makes the game easier for everyone around him, who removes the complexity, who doesn't need you to be perfect, just to be in the right spot at the right time. For a player like Ball, who has the vision to read a LeBron possession better than almost anyone, the fit argument writes itself. Elsewhere on the pod, Green raved about James's upside as a teammate. That's telling. Green has won championships with Tim Duncan, Kawhi Leonard, and LeBron. He's been on the floor with the best in the game. And when he talks about what it feels like to play with LeBron, the word he keeps coming back to is easy. The game becomes easier, and when the game is easier, players perform closer to their ceiling. Imagine what LaMelo Ball's ceiling looks like when he's playing alongside someone who makes things easier. Because right now, even without that luxury, playing on bad Charlotte teams, carrying the load himself through injuries and inconsistency, he's putting up numbers that belong in conversations about the best guards in the NBA. In 47 starts for Charlotte, during his 2024-25 campaign, Ball averaged 25.2 points, 4.9 rebounds, and 7.4 assists. 25 points and 7 assists on a team that never sniffed the playoffs. On a team where he was carrying most of the offensive weight by himself. Take that same player and put him on a roster that already has LeBron James and Luka Doncic drawing attention. And suddenly those numbers shift in ways that make every contender nervous. The Lakers front office understood this. The conversations around Lake Show circles, the proposals being floated, the way Ball's name kept reappearing every time people asked, what does this team still need? It all pointed in the same direction. And then there was the proposal that made a 3-team scenario involving the Mavericks, Hornets, and Lakers feel genuinely possible. Greg Swartz of Bleacher Report floated a proposal that sends LaMelo Ball to Dallas, Klay Thompson to Los Angeles, and Rui Hachimura to Charlotte. In this version, the Lakers don't get Ball directly, but they become part of the machinery that makes the whole deal work. And they end up with Klay Thompson as a consolation prize while the Mavs get Ball to play next to Cooper Flag. That proposal got a lot of attention because it felt creative. Swartz wrote that the LaMelo Ball era with the Charlotte Hornets is slowly coming to an end, and that Dallas is desperate for anyone who can dribble and shoot to pair with Cooper Flag. He also noted LA would happily reunite with a pair of Luka Doncic's former teammates. The trade machine crowd loved it. The internet ran with it. And while none of this was official, none of it was reported as real negotiations. It showed that the conversation around LaMelo Ball and the Lakers was everywhere. It wasn't going away. The deeper question underneath all of this is whether the Lakers had the assets to compete with teams who had more draft capital available. And this is where the history of this franchise becomes uncomfortable reading. Los Angeles traded its first-round selections in every NBA draft between 2019 and 2022, gave up on 2023 selection Jalen Hood-Schifino within 2 seasons, and traded their first-round picks in 2025 and 2027. In fact, no Lakers first-round draft pick has played a single game beyond their 4-year rookie-scale contract since Andrew Bynum in 2009-10. That's a staggering sentence. Since 2009, the Lakers have not developed a homegrown talent into a long-term piece of their core. In almost 2 decades, that pattern is exactly what makes acquiring LaMelo, a proven star, feel so necessary, because they don't have the infrastructure to build one from scratch. The Lakers have advanced past the first round of the playoffs in just 5 of the 16 seasons since the 2009-10 campaign concluded. It's not necessarily a direct result of how they've disregarded the NBA draft, but it certainly played a factor. Translation: the shortcuts have a cost, and the bill comes due every spring when the team isn't good enough to go deep in May. LaMelo Ball would represent a shortcut of the highest order, and also potentially the right one. With LeBron James confirmed to continue his tenure with the Los Angeles Lakers, fans are optimistic about the franchise's prospects. This optimism arises from JJ Redick's project, which places veteran James as a key figure in Luka Doncic's seamless integration into the roster. So LeBron is back. LeBron chose to stay. At 41, he's still opting in, still competing, still believing, and that commitment deserves to be honored with a roster that gives him a real shot. The LaMelo Ball conversation wasn't just about basketball. It was about loyalty, about giving the king what he's earned. LeBron James, reportedly opting into his player option for 2025-26, showed a commitment to Los Angeles that the front office had to match. He's not going anywhere. He's not chasing a ring somewhere else. He's betting on the Lakers. So the pressure on the front office isn't just about winning, it's about proving that the organization is as committed to this run as LeBron himself. That's what made every LaMelo rumor feel charged. Every proposal, every trade machine mock-up, every sources say tweet. Because this wasn't just a basketball decision. It was a statement about what this franchise believes it can be in the final chapter of LeBron James's career. The fans felt it, the players felt it, and somewhere in a Charlotte front office, a decision was being made that would ripple all the way to Los Angeles. But here's the thing about LaMelo Ball specifically. He's not just a player who would help LeBron. He's a player whose story has been intertwined with the Lakers' story for reasons that go deeper than just basketball. Think about where Ball grew up. Ball was born in Anaheim, California to LeVar and Tina Ball, who were both former college basketball players. He grew up in the shadow of the Lakers, in a house that breathed basketball, where the sport wasn't just something you watched on TV, but something you were raised to conquer. LeVar Ball, his father, built an entire family brand around the idea that his sons would be NBA stars. And for all the noise that came with that, the prediction came true. LaMelo and his brother Lonzo, who was chosen No. 2 overall in the 2017 draft, became the first set of brothers to both be drafted in the top 3 of the NBA draft. 2 brothers, top 3 picks both times. The Ball family legacy in NBA draft history is already written in permanent ink. And the idea of LaMelo coming home, to Los Angeles, to the city where the whole story started, carried a weight that went beyond any trade proposal spreadsheet. The Lakers fan base was louder than anyone about it. Social media was full of mock trades, full of arguments about what Austin Reeves was worth, full of debates about whether the Lakers were willing to blow it up and rebuild around LaMelo and Luka and LeBron. The energy around this was real. And then the draft night whispers started, and then Shams dropped the news, and then the phones started ringing across the league. Multiple teams, serious interest. A bidding war quietly beginning to take shape behind closed doors. The Lakers were monitoring the situation. As franchises always say, the Timberwolves were doing more than monitoring. NBA insiders revealed that multiple teams were pursuing Ball, with the Bucks, Raptors, and Timberwolves as known suitors. The Timberwolves' interest was undeniably serious, according to reports, but they weren't willing to include either Jaden McDaniels or Dante DiVincenzo in any deal. Undeniably serious. That's the phrase that told you everything about where this was heading. Not toward Los Angeles, but toward Minneapolis. And the Lakers were about to learn a hard lesson about what happens when you spend years mortgaging your future, and then show up to the auction without enough left in your pocket. Before we get into the mechanics of the trade and who won and who lost, it's worth stopping to really explain what makes LaMelo Ball special. Because if you're going to understand why teams were lining up to get him, why the Lakers desperately wanted him, and why his eventual destination shook the whole league, you have to understand the actual player, not the brand, not the family drama, the basketball player. Ball finished second in the league in three-pointers made last year with 272. His ability to create opportunities off the dribble, coupled with his unique passing vision and knack for hitting step-back three-pointers, makes him one of the NBA's most exciting scoring point guards. Second in the league in threes made. That's not a system shooter hitting open corner attempts all day. That's a primary creator who generates his own looks, manufactures his own opportunities, and converts them at a rate that puts him in the conversation with the best shooters in the game. But the scoring is almost the secondary part. The first part, the part that makes scouts lean forward in their chairs, is the vision. LaMelo Ball sees the floor differently than almost everyone playing basketball right now. He processes the geometry of the game in real time, in a way that makes his passes feel precognitive, like he knew what was going to happen before it happened, and he put the ball in the air while everyone else was still figuring it out. Ball recorded a triple-double with 38 points, 13 rebounds, and 13 assists against the Washington Wizards in October 2025. 13 rebounds and 13 assists for a point guard is not a normal box score line. The talent was never the issue. The talent has always been undeniable. What's made Ball complicated, and this is the honest part of the conversation, is the consistency. Not the scoring consistency. His numbers are consistent when he's playing. The other kind of consistency, showing up, being available, getting through a full season without a body part betraying him at the worst possible moment. He played 72 games last season, but he only suited up for 105 combined in the 3 seasons prior. That's the ledger. The talent on one side, the medical history on the other. Every team interested in LaMelo Ball had to decide for themselves how they weighed those two things against each other. And the teams willing to make that bet had to be willing to commit at the max contract level, and accept that there would probably be a stretch or two each season where they'd hold their breath. But here's what the last full season told everyone. Over his 303 career games, the 24-year-old guard has averaged 20.8 points and 7.3 assists on 41.8% shooting from the field. The 2025-26 season was a major milestone for him as he played over 70 games. His highest appearance count since his sophomore run. 70 games, career high in availability, career best efficiency in some metrics. He was trending in exactly the right direction. And that's precisely why the Hornets were able to get top dollar for him, and why the market for him was as competitive as it was. Ball averaged 20.1 points, 7.1 assists, and 4.8 rebounds per game, while shooting 36.8% from three-point range and 40.7% from the floor during the 2025-26 season. In context, those numbers are playing at a level that puts him among the 10 best point guards in the NBA. And point guard is the deepest position in the league right now. To be in the top 10 at the deepest position in the game, at 24 years old, while coming off the healthiest season of your career, that's not a good trade piece. That's a franchise cornerstone. And yet, and here's where Charlotte's decision gets even more puzzling, they traded him anyway. The Hornets were one of the best stories in the league last year, with an electric offense led by Ball getting Charlotte as close to the playoffs as the franchise has been in a decade. He figured to be at the center of the organization's new core, along with Brandon Miller and Con Neppel, a trio talented enough to ensure playoff contention for the foreseeable future. They had it. The roster was built, the core was in place, and they sold it off anyway. The real reason behind that decision probably involves the kind of internal front office dynamics that never make it into press releases. Maybe it was the off-court incidents. Maybe it was the personality fit, the idea that Ball's style, his attitude, his way of operating wasn't quite aligned with the direction the organization wanted to go. Maybe it was just a financial calculation. Whatever it was, the effect was the same. LaMelo Ball was available, and the league came running. In November 2024, Ball was fined $100,000 by the NBA after he used an offensive phrase in a post-game interview. Any team that acquired him was getting all of that. The talent and the noise packaged together. For the Lakers, a franchise that already operates under the most intense microscope in American sports, in the entertainment capital of the world, with LeBron James and his enormous brand profile on the roster. Adding LaMelo Ball would have meant doubling down on all of that. The energy that follows this kid everywhere would have hit Los Angeles and amplified tenfold. Was that a selling point or a warning sign? Probably both, depending on who you asked. But let's come back to what he does on a basketball court, because that's ultimately what makes him worth the conversation. The Timberwolves had been in search of an upgrade at point guard and a better sidekick for Anthony Edwards, since he elevated into one of the NBA's best players. Ball, in theory, could fill those gaps and work interchangeably with Edwards. Ball can be the playmaker Edwards hasn't had to relieve defensive pressure in high-leverage half-court situations. That's the analysis for Minnesota. Now translated to Los Angeles. LeBron James has spent the last 3 seasons being the primary ball handler on a Lakers team that didn't have anyone else who could consistently create off the dribble at a high level. Austin Reeves is good, very good, but he's a scorer who works best off screens. And in catch-and-shoot situations, he's not going to put the ball on the floor and break down a playoff defense in a half-court set. Ball does that every night without breaking a sweat. And with Luka Doncic now in the mix, a player who also demands the ball, who also needs space to create, having a third primary option who can survive and thrive in off-ball situations while also being able to lead a second unit independently. That's not a luxury. For a team trying to beat the Thunder and the Spurs in a best-of-7 playoff series, that might be a necessity. At just 24 years old, Ball brings a fresh pair of legs with star capabilities. In games where James and Davis are nursing injuries or resting, Ball can easily step in and be the primary option to score. That analysis was written in the context of a previous Lakers roster that still had Anthony Davis. The roster has shifted since then, but the logic is even more relevant now. because neither LeBron nor Luka is built to play 38 minutes a night through a full playoff run anymore. They need rest. They need games where they can breathe. Ball is the player who makes those nights survivable. Not just survivable, but potentially winnable. Think about what he did in the play-in tournament this past spring. Ball contributed 30 points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 block across 40 minutes in a 127-126 overtime win over the Heat in the play-in tournament. 30 points and 10 assists in an overtime must-win game at 24. That's the version of LaMelo Ball that made every team in the league sit up straight during draft week. That's the player someone was about to acquire. And the Hornets, impossibly, were going to let him go. The question was only where he would land. And the Lakers, for all the fan excitement, for all the trade machine proposals, for all the logic that pointed to a purple and gold future for LaMelo Ball, were about to find out that wanting something badly doesn't mean you get it. The timing of this trade, landing right in the middle of draft week, meant that the basketball world got two forms of news at once: the draft picks and their immediate implications, alongside the blockbuster trade that rendered some of those picks almost irrelevant in terms of the headlines. The LaMelo story swallowed everything. Rumors of Charlotte shopping their all-star point guard first emerged during the second round of the NBA draft, and a line of aggressive suitors reportedly emerged quickly. Second round of the draft. That's when the news leaked, not during the offseason proper, not at the trade deadline, but right in the middle of the live draft broadcast. The chaos that followed was immediate. Every team's draft board suddenly had a second layer, their picks, plus what they'd be willing to give up to get Ball. The deal that ultimately came together was described as one of the more stunning trades in recent NBA history. And it was, by any measure, not just for the player involved, but for the package, the picks, the timing, the way the story developed, and for the fan bases who were left on the outside of it, including the Lakers faithful who had spent weeks convinced their team was going to make a run at him. Because here's what the Lakers' situation looked like in real terms. The assets problem was real. The picks they traded away over the years meant their trade war chest was limited. The contracts on their roster meant salary matching was complicated. And the Hornets, armed with multiple serious suitors, could afford to be patient. A team in their position just doesn't need to take the sort of risks Minnesota did in order to build a contender. They could afford to be picky, so that's what they did. Charlotte had leverage, full leverage. And when you have full leverage in an NBA trade negotiation, you use it. You wait for the best offer. You don't close the deal early. You let the bidding war run until someone blinks and throws in the extra pick, the extra swap, the extra year of commitment. Minnesota blinked. Minnesota committed, and the Lakers watched from the outside. But this isn't the end of the Lakers story. It's the middle of it. And what happens next? What the Timberwolves' acquisition of LaMelo actually does to the Western Conference power structure, and what it means for Los Angeles' options going forward, is where the real drama is still unfolding. A surprise development on Wednesday night became a shocking trade on Thursday morning, as the Timberwolves traded for star Hornets point guard LaMelo Ball. ESPN's Shams Charania reported. LaMelo Ball was shockingly traded by the Hornets to the Timberwolves on Thursday morning. That's the sentence. That's the one that landed like a bomb. Not the Lakers, not the Bucks, not the Raptors, the Timberwolves, Minnesota. The team that already had Anthony Edwards, arguably the most explosive young player in the league, decided they needed to go out and get a co-star for him. And they went out and got one of the best ones available. Ball, 24, was traded from the Charlotte Hornets to the Timberwolves during the early hours of June 25, the hours before the league's workday started on the East Coast. The kind of hours when trades get done because the principals are exhausted, and the negotiators on both sides have been up all night working through the details. By the time the basketball world woke up and checked their phones, it was already done. LaMelo Ball was a Minnesota Timberwolf. The Charlotte era was over. The package Charlotte received was significant. The Charlotte Hornets agreed to send Ball and Josh Green to Minnesota in exchange for power forward Naz Reid, an unprotected first-round draft pick in 2033, 3 first-round pick swaps, and 3 future second-round picks. Naz Reid heading to Charlotte is no small thing. He was one of the most beloved players in Timberwolves history, the 2023-24 Sixth Man of the Year, and a player who would have been in line for an even bigger role in Minnesota going forward. They sent him away for this. Minnesota sent an absolute horde of picks, 3 first-round pick swaps in 2028, 29 and 30, an unprotected first-rounder in 33 and 3 seconds, along with fan favorite Naz Reid to Charlotte in exchange for the 24-year-old coming off his best all-around season in the NBA. That's the full haul. Charlotte didn't just accept a player and a couple of picks. They got a long-term infrastructure package that will give them flexibility for the better part of a decade. The Hornets are very well positioned to build a long-term winner. They had 2 other young building blocks in Knueppel and Miller and added a third in Reed. They're loaded with picks. Their cap sheet is flexible. Charlotte played this perfectly. They took an asset that was at peak value, healthy, coming off a career season, still only 24, and they converted him into a haul of picks and a proven frontcourt piece. Whether they were right to do so won't be known for years, but the execution was sharp. For Minnesota, though, this move was everything. This was the swing they'd been waiting to take. After back-to-back trips deep into the Western Conference playoffs and a second-round exit this year, Minnesota clearly decided it wasn't close enough to seriously challenge the Thunder or Spurs. So President of Basketball Operations Tim Connolly did what he has rarely been afraid to do. He took another big swing. This time, he landed All-Star guard LaMelo Ball. The Western Conference context matters here, because the team Minnesota was chasing, the team they needed to beat, was the Oklahoma City Thunder, the reigning champions, the team that had been building with patience and precision for 5 years, and arrived in 2025 as the finished product. When Minnesota faced Oklahoma City in the 2025 Western Conference Finals, outside of their Game 3 blowout, they lost 4 games by 73 combined points. That's not a close loss. That's a statement. OKC told the Timberwolves exactly where the gap was, and it was wide enough to drive a truck through. When Victor Wembanyama was on the floor in the second round this season, the Spurs outscored the Timberwolves by 79 points. Minnesota was not good enough to genuinely compete with San Antonio and Oklahoma City. 2 teams, 2 different styles, 2 different constructions, and Minnesota getting beaten by both of them in the same postseason told a clear story. The current build wasn't going to cut it. The roster needed an upgrade. Not a tweak, an upgrade. The Spurs and Thunder have simply broken the scale in the Western Conference. They are so good and so young, and so asset-rich that competing with them as a normal team, especially one as asset-poor as Minnesota had made itself, was nearly impossible. So what do you do when the normal path to winning isn't available? You abandon it. You make a move that resets the conversation. You go get LaMelo Ball. The Timberwolves acquired LaMelo Ball in a trade with the Charlotte Hornets, creating a backcourt tandem with Anthony Edwards that will combine Minnesota's pre-existing MVP candidate with a freewheeling but undeniably talented point guard capable of highlight reel plays at any moment. That backcourt, on paper, just think about what that looks like. Anthony Edwards, explosive, physical, becoming an unstoppable offensive force. LaMelo Ball, fluid, creative, with the kind of passing vision that makes everyone around him better. The no one and no 3 picks from the same draft class side by side. Minnesota now teams Anthony Edwards up with an elite playmaker, putting the no one and no 3 picks from the 2020 NBA draft together. Draft classes have legacy moments. The year when 2 players who went to different teams end up on the same roster and make history together. This might be one of those moments. The 2020 draft class was supposed to be LaMelo's stage. Now he's sharing it with the guy who went first. It's a tantalizing fit. Edwards and Ball are part of the same draft class, and so have potentially many years of contention together ahead of them. Their offensive skill sets will prove dangerous when combined on the court in Minnesota. Dangerous. That's the right word. When you have 2 players who can each score 30 points by themselves, who can each run an offense independently, and who can create for each other as naturally as they create for themselves. You have something that defensive coaches lose sleep over. Ball, in theory, could fill those gaps and work interchangeably with Edwards. Ball can be the playmaker Edwards hasn't had to relieve defensive pressure in high-leverage half-court situations. Edwards' strengths as a passer, an on-ball defender, and the presence of Gobert will give Ball more open 3-point shots and allow Minnesota to hide Ball on defense. That last point matters. One of the persistent criticisms of Ball has been his defensive effort and ability. Charlotte's coach Charles Lee flagged it repeatedly. Despite Ball's offensive brilliance, his defensive shortcomings were occasionally a point of contention. But in Minnesota, with Rudy Gobert protecting the paint, with Edwards applying pressure on the perimeter, Ball doesn't have to be a stopper. He just has to not be a liability. and the roster structure makes that achievable. Every playoff loss over the last 2 years saw Edwards get swarmed by double teams at every turn, and no Timberwolves player was able to capitalize as a perimeter threat. That's the problem Ball solves. When defenses collapse on Edwards, someone has to make them pay. The pick and roll rotation, the kick out three, the weak side cut. Ball does all of it. He finds the right play faster than most players in the league. Pairing him with a player who draws that kind of attention is almost the ideal deployment for what he does best. But there are real risks here that the basketball world hasn't been quiet about. As much of a risk as this is for the Hornets, it's no sure thing for the Timberwolves either. Minnesota was already bereft of draft capital, but the cupboard is now completely empty. There are essentially no more picks to use to improve the roster. You can't improve what you can't afford to change. Minnesota has committed to this core: Edwards, Ball, Gobert. And if it doesn't work, there's no lever to pull, no pick to trade, no young player to offer in a deal. They're locked in. That leaves the franchise on the edge and very vulnerable to any extended injury absence from either of the two stars now on the roster. Trading away Reed at 26 years old hurts too. He's a homegrown talent with an extremely valuable skill set as a truly elite shooter at 6'9", particularly for a team that will have Rudy Gobert in the starting lineup. Spacing around Gobert has historically been the thing that limited his team's offensive ceiling. Reed was one of the players who solved that problem. Without him, it comes back. Minnesota gives up an important frontcourt piece in Reed, and replacing his scoring and versatility won't be easy. Ball's injury history also can't be ignored, even after a healthier 2025-26 campaign. These are the conditions attached to the championship bet. You believe in the upside, you accept the downside. Minnesota has made that calculation explicitly and publicly, and the whole league is watching to see whether Tim Connolly's swing connects. And then there's the Lakers side of the reaction, because Los Angeles fans and LeBron himself presumably watched this unfold in real time. The player they wanted, the player that made so much sense next to LeBron, the player whose arrival in Los Angeles would have set the league on fire. He's in Minnesota now, playing next to Anthony Edwards, in the same conference, potentially on a collision course with the Lakers in the playoffs. The Timberwolves already beat the Lakers in the first round of the 2025 playoffs. The Lakers posted a 50-32 record and the No. 3 seed in the Western Conference this season, but they fell short of a deep playoff run, losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 quick contests. 5 games, clean sweep +1. The Wolves had their number, and now they're adding LaMelo Ball to the roster that already handled LeBron and Luka with relative comfort. The Western Conference just got harder, and specifically harder for the Lakers. The Minnesota Timberwolves have been bold NBA contenders since drafting Anthony Edwards. They stunned the league by trading a 2022 first-round pick and 4 future first-round draft picks to acquire center Rudy Gobert. They then shocked the league again when they moved Karl Anthony Towns. And now this. The Timberwolves under Tim Connolly are not a franchise that waits around. They see what they need and they go get it, regardless of the price. The Lakers have watched from a distance while Minnesota kept swinging, and each swing landed. They shocked even their own locker room 2 years later by trading Karl Anthony Towns to the New York Knicks in a 3-team deal that brought back Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. They were at it again in the days surrounding the 2026 NBA draft, jettisoning Randle and their 2026 first-round pick in a move that helped open the door for the biggest splash of all. Every time the league thought Minnesota was done making moves, they came back with another one. They cleared cap space. They reshuffled the deck. They kept moving pieces until the picture looked the way they wanted it to look. The team experienced a 5-game loss in 2025 to the eventual champion Oklahoma City Thunder and a defeat by the San Antonio Spurs last month, recognizing they had not yet reached the championship level, despite building their roster around Anthony Edwards. President of Basketball Operations Tim Connolly has a history of aggressive roster improvements, including the 2022 trade for Rudy Gobert and the move of Karl Anthony Towns 2 years ago. You can draw a straight line from every one of those moves to this one. Connolly doesn't believe in waiting. He believes in acting. And now he's acted again with a player that the Lakers wanted, that LeBron's team needed, that fits the profile of the star co-pilot more precisely than almost anyone else available. The Lakers didn't get LaMelo Ball. Minnesota did, and the ripple effects of that single fact are going to shape the Western Conference for years. Ball has 3 years and more than $130 million remaining on his contract with the Hornets. He is also eligible to sign a 2-year extension with the Timberwolves worth an additional $119 million beginning next month. If Ball signs that extension, he's in Minnesota for the foreseeable future. Not just this season, not just next season, multiple years. Locked in. And his pairing with Edwards becomes the kind of long-term building block that the Lakers-LeBron-Luka pairing is supposed to be, except with a decade of potential runway ahead of it instead of 2 or 3 years. That's the uncomfortable reality for the Lakers. LeBron's window, while still open, is shorter than Edwards' window. Luka's window is probably comparable to Edwards, but the supporting cast around LeBron and Luka has question marks that the Minnesota roster doesn't have anymore. The Wolves now have 2 of the most electric offensive players in the game paired together with a defensive anchor in Gobert and a coaching staff that knows how to win. The Lakers are going to have to find another answer because Ball is off the board, and the summer just got a lot more complicated. So where does this leave LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers? They didn't get LaMelo Ball. They watched Minnesota swoop in with a decisive offer while Los Angeles was still running calculations. The player who made the most sense next to LeBron, the young star point guard who would have solved the playmaking depth problem, who would have given LeBron the co-star he's been searching for since Anthony Davis left, is now in a Timberwolves jersey. And the Western Conference just became harder to navigate. But this isn't the first time the Lakers have missed out on a target, and it won't be the last time they find a way to answer the question. The franchise has been doing this for decades, missing one star and pivoting to find another. Shaq and Kobe, Kobe and Pau, LeBron and Davis, LeBron and Luka. Every time one door closes, another one opens, usually because of the franchise's ability to attract talent that no other team can match. James is widely considered to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time, and one of the most famous athletes in modern history. That doesn't stop being true just because one trade didn't happen. The Lakers remain the most watched franchise in basketball. LeBron remains the biggest draw in the sport, and Luka Doncic is arguably the most skilled offensive player of his generation. The foundation is there. The question is what gets built on top of it. The Walker Kessler conversation is one piece of the answer. Sam Amick of The Athletic recently reported that restricted free agent Walker Kessler is at odds with the Utah Jazz and is strongly considering the prospect of a basketball future outside Utah. On the surface, that's great news for the Los Angeles Lakers and their need for a center. Kessler is one of the better young shot blockers and rim protectors in the league. He's not LaMelo Ball, but he addresses a different need on a different part of the roster, the front court, where the Lakers have had consistent questions for years. Beneath the surface, however, the Lakers will struggle to come up with the necessary compensation for a potential sign and trade. There it is again, the assets problem. The recurring issue that follows this franchise every offseason. Thankfully, the Ball trade provided the blueprint. The Los Angeles Lakers have a more reasonable path to Walker Kessler. If the recent LaMelo Ball trade has set a new standard for transactions, Minnesota moved Ball primarily through pick swaps rather than outright picks, a mechanism that costs less in immediate terms, while still giving the receiving team real value. If the Lakers can apply that same framework to a Kessler deal, they might be able to solve their frontcourt issue without mortgaging everything they have left. Cameron Carr, the Lakers' first-round pick in 2026, represents an opportunity to learn from past mistakes. The Knicks took Carr at 24 and were trading him to the Lakers while moving down to 25. So the Lakers do have a pick, a young player entering the system, a chance to develop someone rather than just trading for veterans. Whether this franchise can actually do that, whether they can break the cycle of burning future assets in the present, is the real test of the next chapter. Los Angeles traded its first-round selections in every NBA draft between 2019 and 2022, and no Lakers first-round draft pick has played a single game beyond their 4-year rookie-scale contract since Andrew Bynum in 2009-10. That's the pattern that has to break, because you can't keep arriving at these moments. When a player like LaMelo Ball is available, when the market is moving and speed matters, without any chips in your pocket. The LaMelo situation was, in a way, the consequence of years of short-term thinking catching up with the franchise all at once. The Lakers have advanced past the first round of the playoffs in just 5 of the 16 seasons since the 2009-10 campaign concluded, 5 times in 16 years. For a franchise that measures itself by championships, that number is embarrassing. The years when LeBron was carrying the team alone toward playoff exits. The Russell Westbrook season that everyone would like to forget. The injury years. The years when the roster around the stars just wasn't good enough. All of it adds up to a franchise that hasn't gotten it right consistently enough, even with the greatest player of his generation wearing their jersey. And that's the conversation that the LaMelo Ball trade, in a roundabout way, forces the Lakers to have with themselves. What are you building? What's the plan? Because if the plan is wait and see what's available and try to grab it, that plan has a ceiling, and that ceiling got a lot more visible when Minnesota moved faster and offered more, and brought LaMelo Ball to the Twin Cities instead of Hollywood. Let's talk about what the Western Conference looks like now, because this isn't just about the Lakers. This is about the entire landscape that LeBron and Luka are going to have to navigate. When Minnesota faced Oklahoma City in the 2025 Western Conference Finals, they lost 4 games by 73 combined points. Minnesota was not good enough to genuinely compete with San Antonio and Oklahoma City. The Spurs and Thunder have simply broken the scale in the Western Conference. Oklahoma City is the reigning champion. Victor Wembanyama is in San Antonio and has been dominant in the postseason. The Timberwolves just added LaMelo Ball to a roster that already beat the Lakers in the first round. And somewhere in that mix, the Lakers are trying to figure out how to climb from their current position to one that can compete for an actual title. The gap is real. It's not insurmountable, but it's real. And the teams at the top, OKC and San Antonio, got where they are through patient, systematic roster construction. They drafted well. They developed players. They didn't trade picks away every other year to acquire another veteran who wasn't quite the right fit. The Lakers front office has to look at that model and genuinely reckon with it, because LeBron can't wait forever. James was selected for his 21st NBA All-Star game, 21. His career has been so long that some of his current teammates weren't in elementary school when he first made the All-Star team. The window for another championship run is still open. The man can still score 42 points on any given night, but the window is narrowing, and every summer that passes without a meaningful roster upgrade is a summer that the clock runs down a little further. With LeBron James confirmed to continue his tenure with the Los Angeles Lakers, fans are optimistic about the franchise's prospects. The optimism is still there. It never really goes away. Not in a city like Los Angeles, not with a player like LeBron, not with Luka Doncic on the roster. But optimism needs to be fed. It needs results. It needs movement. It needs a front office that matches the ambition of its star players with the kind of decisiveness that Minnesota's front office showed when LaMelo Ball became available. The Lakers were too slow, or too asset poor, or both. And the consequences of that are visible now in a way that makes the offseason feel like a reckoning. What are the moves available from here? Who's the player that fills the LaMelo-shaped hole in this roster? The young creator, the off-ball threat, the scoring guard who takes pressure off LeBron and Luka and allows this team to be genuinely 3 deep in offensive firepower. The answer exists somewhere. It always does. The Lakers have been through worse and found a way through, but the window for finding that answer is tight, and the conference around them is getting better while they search. Danny Green, who won the 2020 championship with LA, recently guested on Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes' All the Smoke podcast to talk all things basketball. He reflected on what old teammate LeBron James and Luka Doncic should expect in the coming years together. Green's assessment was measured. He believes in the pairing. He believes in what LeBron brings to a franchise, even at this stage. But he was also direct about what the team still needs to become a real contender. James can still be a great no too, but this new dynamic duo needs a center and a lot of wing defense to thrive. Green played alongside LeBron and described the experience in terms that highlight exactly what a player like LaMelo would have added. He knows everybody, what they can do, where their best spots are. He wants you where you're best at, and he's gonna find you there. He knows they're gonna double him, and if they don't, he's gonna kill. He made the game very easy. That's the LeBron effect. A smart, selfless point guard operating in that environment, making reads off LeBron's attention, hitting the kick-out threes, running in transition would thrive. Ball would have thrived. Now someone else has to be that player. The Walker Kessler pursuit continues. The free agent market will present options. There will be other names, other players, other proposals, other opportunities that emerge as the offseason progresses. The Lakers are not a finished product. They never are in the offseason. But the LaMelo Ball moment revealed something real about where this organization stands and how much work remains to be done. For LaMelo Ball, meanwhile, the story is entering its most interesting chapter yet. 6 years in Charlotte, a franchise that, for all its talent, never gave him a playoff experience. 6 seasons of watching better constructed teams advance to May and June, while Charlotte kept falling just short. Now he's going to Minnesota, where Anthony Edwards has already been to the Western Conference Finals twice, where the roster is built to compete, where the organizational infrastructure is specifically designed to win. The Timberwolves are in clear win-now mode as they look to capitalize heavily on the Edwards window, and bringing LaMelo Ball into the picture completely changes their trajectory. It is a staggering trade at a pivotal point in this franchise's competitive window. The question for LaMelo personally is whether he can elevate to the occasion, whether the availability that eluded him for the first 5 years of his career stays consistent, whether the defensive effort that cost him playing time in Charlotte gets cleaned up in a more structured environment, whether the charisma and talent that everyone can see translates into postseason success for the first time. There are, of course, injury and maturity concerns involving Ball. He played in more than 70 games for the first time since the 2021-22 season last year with the Hornets. The concern doesn't disappear just because he had one healthy season. It follows him. It will follow him everywhere he goes until he strings together multiple full seasons and proves that the injury history is behind him. Minnesota is betting that it is. The Wolves took this risk with full knowledge of the ledger. Championship contenders rarely play it safe. The Timberwolves looked at a loaded Western Conference and decided standing pat wasn't enough. That's the mentality the Lakers need to match, not just in their public statements, not just in their messaging to LeBron and the fan base, in the actual decisions they make with the roster over the next 12 months. Because the message Minnesota just sent, the message that you have to be willing to move your most beloved pieces, your deepest picks, your safest bets, in pursuit of a player who changes the equation, is a message that lands directly on Lake Show soil. The Lakers have the framework. They have LeBron James and Luka Doncic, 2 players who on their best nights can beat anybody in the league. But on those nights when one of them isn't at their best, when the defense collapses, when the shots aren't falling, when the team needs a third voice to carry them, who is that player? Right now, the answer isn't obvious. And with Minnesota now assembling one of the most dangerous offensive rosters in the conference, the urgency to find that answer is at an all-time high. The LaMelo Ball chapter for the Los Angeles Lakers is over before it officially began. He won't be walking through those Crypto.com arena doors in a purple and gold jersey. He won't be running pick and rolls with LeBron in the 4th quarter of a Western Conference playoff game. That version of the story, the one Lakers fans wanted, the one that made so much sense on paper, didn't happen. But the story isn't over. Not for LeBron, not for the Lakers, not for a franchise that has always found a way to write the next chapter, even when the one they wanted slipped through their fingers. The summer is just getting started. LeBron James in the 2025-26 season, 60 games, 20.9 points, 6.1 rebounds, 7.2 assists, a PER of 20.8, win shares of 5.4 at 41, with the miles he has on his body, putting up numbers that a 28-year-old would be proud of. The man is not done. He was not done last season, and he will not be done next season. But the clock is ticking, and the competition got harder overnight. And the player who could have been the answer to every LeBron roster question for the last 3 years is now wearing a different color. Ball had been looking forward to this upcoming Hornets season to build off of Charlotte's momentum from the previous season. But now he finds himself on the move. That detail is one of the more poignant ones in this whole story. He was excited about Charlotte. He believed in what they were building. He thought the pieces were finally in place. And then his front office accepted a phone call, and the next 3 years of his life changed in an instant. That's the NBA. That's the business. And LaMelo Ball, who has never lived a quiet or conventional moment in his life, will adapt. He always has. The Lakers will adapt too. They'll find the next target. They'll make the next call. They'll put together the next package and present it to whoever needs to be convinced. Because that's what this franchise does. That's what LeBron demands. That's what the purple and gold requires. The star teammate that LeBron has been waiting for. The one who will finally give this team the third dimension it needs is still out there. LaMelo Ball wasn't it. At least not yet. But somewhere in the NBA ecosystem, that player exists. And when they surface, the Lakers will be ready. Or at least they better be, because the Western Conference just got a whole lot more